Turn your living room into a joyful, hands-free playroom with CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Your child sings, moves, and learns right alongside JJ and friends, all on the big screen. It's designed thoughtfully to spark speech, rhythm, and coordination through songs and active play. Try an ad-free, safe, and interactive way to make screen time part of their learning and growth. Parents love how easy it is, voice-controlled and frustration-free. Kids love every moment of singing, laughing, and playing along. It's fun for them, and it's feel-good for you. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Just search Volley in your TV's app store and start your free trial of CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ today. That's CoComelon Sing and Play with JJ. Available now in the Volley app on your smart TV. Search Volley and start your free trial today.
Volley. Welcome to Homeschooling Outside the Box, the podcast that encourages and equips moms who homeschool an outside-the-box child. Hey there, I'm Cindy Rinna, and this is episode 15. Today we're going to talk about detoxing. When I say detoxing, I'm talking about it in a very general way. To detox simply means to abstain from toxic or unhealthy substances for a period of time. So the purpose of a detox is to rid toxins from the body and to reset, so to speak. You can do this with your body, mostly by getting rid of sugar, processed foods, and things that you should not be putting in your body in the first place, or through your mind, which a lot of people nowadays call this unplugging. Or you could do both, which is what we choose to do. This tends to happen to our family every year around this time. I feel like it begins in October with Halloween. There's the big surge of excitement. That's the first kickoff to the holidays. And then you've got Halloween and all the sugary treats and the activities that go with it. And then Thanksgiving comes. And of course, Christmas is right around the corner, which feels like just a month-long celebration of sugar and treats, and for us, screen time and things that we're not normally doing seem to all happen in December. Then you bring in the new year, you kind of set some goals and you want to get back on the right track. But for our family, February brings a birthday for the twins. So of course, birthdays mean cake and ice cream and things like that. And then Valentine's Day is right around the corner. So by Valentine's Day, what I've noticed with our family is that we are cranky, wired, overtired, undernourished, overstimulated, and sliding frantically down a slippery slope. Screens and sugar, and especially their toxic combination, bring out the worst in us. In other words, they're the Achilles heel of the Rinna family. So like I said, around this time of year, their effects are rearing their ugly head, and I have to come to terms with the fact that it is time for a detox. So like I said, detoxing is pretty much like a reset, and it means abstaining from things that are not good for you. And for our family, that comes down really to screens, sugar, and processed food. We already don't eat gluten because of my celiac disease and the boys' sensitivities to it. Half of our family does not eat dairy because they have problems with it. None of us eat artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or preservatives, and we really don't go out to eat or eat much fast food, except a rare treat at Chick-fil-A, which every Southerner will tell you is not actually fast food, even though I'm sure it probably is. Caffeine, we really don't do much of. I like to have a little bit in my coffee in the morning, but the biggies, like I said, are screen, sugar, and processed food. These are the ones that will slip back into our life when we're busy, when we're rushed, when we have no margin in our days, or when we have a celebration like a birthday or a holiday that turns into a slippery slope, just somehow letting that thing back into our lives on a regular basis, like screens. Okay, so how do I know when we need to detox? I've shared with you that we've done this before, and I knew that it was time to do it again. So here's a list of our red flags. These are things that I'm seeing over and over that are showing me we've gotten out of hand with a few things. So poor quality of sleep, meltdowns, that can be yelling, whining, backtalk, disrespect, apathy, intense behaviors like hitting, kicking, pushing, biting, self-injurious behavior, hyperactivity, intense sugar cravings, irritability, itchy skin, poor eye contact, or mood swings. So when these behaviors become commonplace in your home, that's when I would say it's time to detox. Everybody, I'm sure, struggles with these or has bad days. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when these are the norm. So this is especially crucial for our kids on the autism spectrum and with ADHD, as their brain's immune system and gut are already hypersensitive to much of the junk that is normally consumed in our culture. This is why it's particularly appealing to have a detox for kids with autism and ADHD, but you can absolutely do it with any person in your family. I should throw my little disclaimer here that I am just a mom. I have no other initials in front of my name, so I'm not a doctor, not a dietitian. This is anecdotal research that has worked really well in our home, and to be honest, it's just a lot of common sense. Okay, if you let your kid play excessive screens, you're going to have a different child at the end of that time period. Or if you give them lots and lots of sugar, that's not good for them. But that being said, if you don't believe me about the brain, immune system, gut thing, you need to grab a copy of the book, Healing the New Childhood Epidemics, Autism, ADHD, Asthma, and Allergies. That is a really great book. It's by I'm losing his name, Dr. Bach, I believe it is. I'm going to put it in the show notes so you can click on it and link to it there. All right, here's the problem with our culture. Not to get on a pedestal, but it all comes back to mindset. So I talk about mindset a lot on my blog. I think I've mentioned it a few times on my podcast, but it is so relevant because that's where all of your actions start. Anything you do comes from what you think about that thing. So if you think, oh, it's just a little cupcake, or oh, it's just an hour on the video game, oh, it's just one turn on the iPad, you're minimizing what the actual truth is. I don't know about you, but we cannot do moderation. So I really don't think any child can, especially when it comes to screens, and especially when you have an outside-the-box child that struggles with sensory problems or autism or ADHD. I'm going to list another book here that you must read when it comes to screens a little bit later in the program. So just stay tuned. Regardless, the moderation thing does not work for us, like I said. So whether it's right or it's wrong, the only way that we can do sugar and screens is on a binge and purge. That's what seems to work for us. So here's an example of that. Every Halloween, we have a choice. We can spend an entire month or more having a piece or 2 or 5 of candy a day and keeping that sugar consistently circulating through our bodies, building our tolerance and each day needing just a little bit more to get our fix. Or we can binge that night, deal with the sugar hangover the next day, and then move on with our lives. So we always choose the latter. So that being said, that's where screens and sugar kind of have a place in our lives, is that it's a treat. So on holidays, on birthdays, that's when they get to enjoy that time. But the problem and the reason for the detox now is I've seen these things just seeping into our family culture. They're becoming what we do, what we get excited about, looking for the next screen day or wanting the next treat, starting to associate those two things with having fun, and that's who we are. And so that's when it's really a problem. So I think it's fine to binge and have a birthday with cake and ice cream and screen time, but then it's not a part of your normal day. Sometimes we don't move on with our lives. Sometimes we blink and there's another holiday, or there's another party, and there's another excuse to binge, and too much binging has great consequences for us. Sugar is in everything, and this is going back to the problem with our culture. If you take a minute to think about what you've eaten just so far today, really think about, I want you to get a couple ideas in your mind. What'd you eat for breakfast? What'd you eat for lunch? What'd you put in your coffee? Okay, I bet sugar is involved in every one of those things. from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed, sugar is a staple in the standard American diet. I just finished reading Michael Pollan's In Defense of Food, and wow, that was an eye-opener. A lot of the things I'd heard before from other sources. The Daniel Plan is an excellent book, 40 Days to a Healthier Life. That's really an eye-opener about the way we eat. But In Defense of Food really talked about how it's very much a Western culture thing. This is not how the world traditionally has eaten and has behaved, and this is kind of a new thing when it comes to culture. So he really has a lot of good things to say. That's an excellent book if you're looking at the way Americans eat, and even our idea of, you think of an American dinner, and it's one huge chunk of meat, a side of potatoes, and a little bit of vegetable. And then surely there's sugar wrapped into some of that somewhere. And so he really promotes mostly plants, eating not too much. And when you look at other cultures and traditional cultures, that's pretty much how they eat. So, like I said, very eye-opening, important read. But I think just know when you're grappling with the way you eat, it's very much an American Western culture, modern diet, convenience over quality issue. So it does take a paradigm shift. You've got to switch your mindset to think another way about food. Again, there's nothing wrong with some sugar on your birthday, celebrating with treats. I love that, but it's when it just takes over and becomes part of everything. On the same note, not for our bodies, but for our mind, screens are everywhere. I am of the generation who actually remembers a time without the internet. We had a house phone. There was no such thing as an iPad. Now, I know a lot of you are in the same boat as me, but I want you to think about your kids' existence. The computer is like the refrigerator. They're not impressed by it. It's just another piece of furniture around the house. So for this reason, it takes a conscious effort to set it apart from the norm and create a boundary. So why do we need a boundary? Well, the short answer is that we were created for relationship with people, not things. The internet really changes that and says, no, you need to have a relationship with this video game, these characters, this program that's on TV. And that's not what we were created for. So that can become a problem if that's taken out of proportion. So here's that resource I was talking about for screens. If you're struggling with screens in your home, or you need to help get your mindset in the right direction with screens, the best book that I've read is called Reset Your Child's Brain, a 4-week plan to end meltdowns, raise grades, and boost social skills by reversing the effects of electronic screen time. Fabulous read. They have in there mapped out how to do a screen reset. We are doing one in March. That's going to be part of our detox plan, but it's something that you can do and really see the change. Some of our kids have never been without screens. They've always had screens in their life. So anytime we've pulled away from them and seen our children without screens, it's so humbling and sobering to see, wow, look at how creative they are. Look at how curious they are. Look at how well they play together. And they're not bickering and they're not annoyed. And so it's very important to see the connection between what screens are actually doing to our children's brains, because they are doing something. Whether you like that answer or not, it's true. So that's definitely a great book to read. And she's no guilt. You're not going to feel ashamed of yourself after you read it, but you are going to feel very empowered about what to do about it if your family does have a problem with screens. And I would argue if you're an American in 2019, you probably do. So, all right, back to the detox. Here's some tips for success. Starting is the hardest part. So you need to set up some sort of accountability. This is going to be a tremendous help. We always detox as a family. This is a team sport. We never single out one child. That's not going to go well if you single out just one kid. So not to mention what you're doing is good for everybody in the family. So why not? Nothing, removing some of these things from your everyday diet is not going to hurt anybody. You also need to have a plan. So I mentioned the book about the screen reset. She does a month for the reset. You don't have to do that. You can just say, this is no longer part of our family culture, and just say that the set time is forever. But you've got to have some sort of plan. So figure out how many days. Are you just going to do this for a weekend, for a whole month? And you need to go to your calendar. If you still have a paper calendar, which I highly recommend. I'm still very much a paper and pen highlighter kind of girl. But go over to your calendar where everybody can see it and mark it out in highlighter. This is what we're doing on these days. And don't give yourself an out. And then you've got to figure out what you are detoxing from. So is it just sugar? Is it all packaged foods? Is it screens? Is it everything? Make a list of what you can do and what you can eat instead. So this is crucial. I'll come right back to this. But figure out what you need to eliminate based on what the biggest problems are that you're having. But you've got to pick something that's tangible. If you know it's going to overwhelm you to do everything at once, then don't do everything at once. Take a whole month just to work on getting rid of sugar, or even just eliminating sugar. Saying, okay, we don't buy ice cream. That's just something we go out for a treat, or setting some sort of boundaries. But give yourself time to adjust, because this could be a very big change in your lifestyle. But back to making a list of what you can do and can eat. It's very discouraging to just hear, no. You cannot have this. You cannot do this. You cannot do that. And so you want it to be more of a not this, but this system. So, okay, we can't watch shows anymore, but we can go bowling, or we can go to the park as a family. And this is the thing. Screens are taking over family culture so much that it feels like there's not time to do some of these family activities. But when you get rid of screens, it's amazing how much time you actually have. And so you would be very surprised to see how excited kids get about, oh, we're going to go fishing, or we're going to go on a hike, or we're going to go to a park we've never been to, or we're going to drive up to the outdoor mall and window shop and at the bookstore, and just little things like that, activities that you can do as a family that replace that screen time will give them something to look forward to. And you need something to look forward to, or else it's going to feel very depressing to do this detox. Nobody's going to be happy about it. And you're going to get a lot more kickback if you don't show, look, all these great other things can take the place. So this flips the situation. It takes the focus off feeling deprived, because really we're not. My pastor has a way of saying everything beyond food and shelter is gravy. And I think of that, and then I think of one of my favorite quotes. It was a Puritan, this picture of this Puritan sitting down to a meal of crust and water, and he's looking at it and he says, all this and Jesus too. And I think in America we have so much. And so when any of it is taken, we think, we feel deprived. I've been, something is gone from my life, but we have so much. So focusing on what the positives are is going to help you. All right. Another tip is to know your weaknesses. I knew that our biggest challenge was going to be packaged chicken fingers and crunchy snacks like packaged popcorn, chips, pretzels, veggie straws. Of course, my morning coffee. When we had originally done this, I was drinking the coffee with the frou-frou creamer. I was drinking full leaded coffee and lots of sugar. So I've now switched to decaf with 1 spoonful of sugar. It's my Mary Poppins coffee. And I do put some regular in it in the morning, but I'm trying to back off that as well. And so it can be done, but you've got to know your weaknesses. Try to soften the blow by weaning off that a week before you start. If you know you're going to do it, stop buying a lot of the snacks that you know are going to be your pitfall. Also, when it comes to screens, if you're doing screens, find your screen time hotspots. So for us, that was right after lunch and rest time. The afternoon is when I felt that pressure to put a show on because I had so much to do and I needed them to be occupied. So you've got to make sure to have a few activities lined up for that time period that maybe they don't see normally that will help you to transition better. Also do crock pot meals, things that will make your life easier at dinner time so you can be present during the afternoon. That's another great idea. But we love puzzles, kinetic sand, Legos, music, audiobooks are a lifesaver because then you feel like there's some interaction and they really get sucked into them and you're not having to read aloud, so you can occupy your time with the dishes or laundry or whatever it is, and then they're still getting something poured into them. So have some of these activities planned, and as well as setting up things throughout the week. So like I mentioned, the park, library, play dates, family game night. These are all great ideas, but be sure not to overschedule and trade one poison for another. So you don't want to get rid of screens to carve out this margin and this healthy place in your family and then just flip that and be overly busy and create another problem. All right, and then the last tip is just to begin and don't look back. Stick with your goal, push through it. I promise it'll be worth it. Once you see your children interacting with each other without screens or without sugar or without all the processed food, you're gonna notice a difference when you do any of these things, when you remove any of these bad things and leave space for more good things to happen. And that's gonna be your payoff. So what does life after detox look like? Well, it depends on how the detox went. For us, we definitely in the past have seen things that we didn't like, that we wanted to change about our family culture. We pushed back some of that screen time. We changed a lot of the foods that we eat and the way we think about food. It will depend on what you want for your family. It's up to you. If you find that you can handle the toxin that you are getting rid of, the screen or the sugar for a little while, and then you just want to detox every few months, you can do it that way. But I would guess that going without some of these things is going to change the way you think about them enough to make it have an impact on your family culture from day to day. I'd love to hear from you. Why don't you check in with me on the Facebook page at cindyrenna.com. Let me know. What do you think about the detox idea? Do you think it's a good idea? Have you tried it already? Have you seen it work? I think this is a conversation that more parents need to be having. We need to call out the problems that are not helping our kids much at all, that is actually hurting them in many ways. So that wraps it up for this episode of Homeschooling Outside the Box. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.